Good afternoon, everybody. It's always a difficult task to be the first speaker of the afternoon, just after the lunch. Everybody told me that you should make some jokes to make people awake, but for the Commission, it's not always very easy to make some jokes. So I will not start with jokes. I will start with the thanks for this invitation, also for the topic, because I found the topic extremely interesting, especially in Lithuania, I would say. I also work with Finland. We heard this morning a speaker presenting the situation in Finland that is quite different from Lithuania, I have to say. And that's why for me it was important to be here today and to speak about the Commission official views on the situation of Lithuania. And maybe I will be a little bit brutal. Your president this morning was speaking about the brutal truth, and actually I found the topic, it was not proposed by me, I would say, but I found it extremely interesting and extremely challenging. And the topic is very interesting to be a little bit brutal, or more brutal than usual, I would say. I started to work in Lithuania 7 years ago, actually. And the first time I came, I think it was after a World Championship of basketball. And I was in an hotel where I could hear all the people singing, not all night long, because we are in a northern country, but part of the night until midnight. And it was so beautiful to hear all these songs. And people looked so happy. And I had this impression that people in Lithuania, wow, they love their country, they're extremely proud of their country. And when I discuss with my colleagues at the Commission, my Lithuanian colleagues, and colleagues from here too, I feel this pride of the country and this love of the country. But at the same time, I wonder if you love your country that much. Why this question? Because actually, over the last decade, we could see that Lithuania, a lot of Lithuanians left their country. More or less, if we take since 10 years, it's more or less 12% of the population that left. It's more than Latvia, where it was 11%, and much more than Estonia, because in Estonia, it was more or less 0% of the population. Since the independence, it's 1 people out of 4 who left Lithuania. 1 people out of 4. So that's really the situation. If it would be a large country,
ta situacija yra gana neraminanti. Jeigu jūsų valstybė būtų didelė, tai reikštų milijonus emigravusių. Jūsų gyventojų yra 3 milijonai ir toks išvykusių skaičius rodo didelį emigracijos laipsnį. Išvyks ir jūsų gyventojų mažėja ne dėl senėjimo, bet dėl emigracijos. Situacija šiek tiek gerėja, kaip matome iš šių metų duomenų. Tikimės, kad ateities tendencijos bus geresnės. Nepaisant to, išvyksta gana daug lietuvių, jaunų lietuvių. Ir dabar atvyksta pas jūsų kaimyninių šalių gyventojai. Dar paradoksas yra tas, kad teigiate mylintys savo šalį, bet nemėgstate mokėti mokesčių. Kuomet kalbuosi su kolegom, visi sako, pernelyg daug mokesčių, mes darom viską, ką galim, kad jų nemokėtumėm. Na gerai, galimas toks asmeninis pasirinkimas, tačiau yra aišku, kad tai meilės šaliai. Iš tiesų, valstybė negalės egzistuoti, jei mokesčiai nebus mokami. Todėl man tai atrodo paradoksalu. Iš tiesų, yra mažai mokančių mokesčius. Jūsų PVM tarifas yra vienas aukščiausių Europos Sąjungoje. Taigi tai yra tas akivaizdus pirmasis paradoksas. Yra ir antrasis, jis jau šį rytą buvo paminėtas. Tai yra Lietuvos stebuklas, Lietuvos ekonomikos augimas, kuris yra pastebimas nuo 2000. Yra ryškus. BVP po krizės reguliariai po 3% apytiksliai didėja. Dabar prognozuojama, kad tas augimas šiek tiek sumažės ir jūsų ekonomika auga sparčiausiai Europos Sąjungoje. Ir jūsų valstybė yra viena iš sparčiausiai augančių EBPO.
If you take the at risk of poverty, so the relative poverty in Lithuania, you can see that this relative poverty, it decreased a little bit until 2012, and there is a slight increasing trend since 2012, and now some stabilization, knowing that there are some things about the data. That's data calculated on the basis of revenues of 2 years before. So that's a little bit difficulty in the data. So what is striking is, okay, there is a lot of economic growth. Lithuania has never been so wealthy, but there are still many poor people. Second indicator, that's about severe material deprivation. So that's more about absolute poverty. The first one was about relative poverty. So that's about absolute poverty. So you can see that during the crisis, absolute poverty increased a lot. A lot of people were severely materially deprived. And then it decreased very quickly, and it continues to decrease. So that's positive. But we will see a little bit later that it's not that good, even despite the progress. Another Lithuanian miracle, well, miracle is maybe too strong because there are sometimes no explanations except God. Here there are some explanations, is that the wages actually in Lithuania increased quickly. You can see once again the effect during the crisis, but then since the crisis, the wages increase extremely quickly. Here, you see the amount of 344. That's actually the at-risk of poverty threshold. So that's 60% of the median equalized income. So let's say the median income of households in Lithuania. So it's a little bit higher in terms of median increase. This threshold is interesting because it's the threshold to define poverty, relative poverty in the European Union. But you can see that this threshold increased, so that's good because median wages increased very quickly in Lithuania. The amounts are still not that high. If you take the relative increase, it's very impressive. 20%, well, not 20, 10% a year. This year, I think for the first semester, it was 11%. But then if you take the amounts, given that the starting point was very low, it's a little bit less impressive. Then if you take the minimum monthly wage, you see some kinds of, not parallel, but also a high increase of the minimum monthly wage. So that's also extremely positive. And what is extremely positive is that during the crisis, not the good. During the crisis, it went a little bit under the threshold at risk of poverty. But then, since 2012, the minimum income was increased every year, sometimes several times a year, and then you see that it's well above the at-risk of poverty threshold. So it means that for the people who work full-time in Lithuania, that's an important nuance, because if you don't work full-time, that could be a different situation. If you work full-time, even with the minimum wage, you are still above the poverty threshold. It does not represent a lot of money, I have to say, coming from Western Europe. Now it's in 2008, you can see 400 euros. So that's not the fortune, I would say. Then, paradox, the problem is with this high increase of salaries is that they increase much more quickly than the benefits. And you can see that the curve for the benefits is relatively flat, actually. The first one, that's about the pensions. So you can see that for the pensions, actually, the level of the average pension was relatively stable and started to increase in 2016. So between 2008 and 2016, salaries, you can see the increase, but pensions remained stable. So when pensions were high enough to avoid poverty, old age poverty, until 2012, the situation reversed after 2013. If we take another benefit, the state-supported income, so you can see the curve, it's flat, 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 and flat, and flat, and then this year, it was increased. That's the minimum, the guaranteed minimum income for Lithuania. So that's extremely interesting to see how actually decisions or no decisions were taken, because the salaries increased and economic growth went up very quickly. So very positive from an economic point of view, but from the social point of view, all the social issues were neglected from a financial point of view during this period. So we see now, I have to insist also on that to be a little bit positive, we see now some positive changes during the last years. I could have put also the unemployment benefits. There was a recent reform of unemployment benefits. One of the speakers this morning mentioned unemployment benefits that they could be maybe a little bit longer in Lithuania. If you take the amount of, if you become unemployed, then the average unemployment benefit is 337 euros in August of this year. If you take the threshold for poverty, it's below this threshold. So if you become unemployed, you become poor. That's a strong incentive to work, actually, but not very positive socially. Why this situation? Why do people don't want to pay tax? Too many taxes? Well, when you see this graph, you can see Lithuania, not that many taxes, I could say, at least in terms of receipts. So we cannot say that there are too many taxes in Lithuania. You see, you are the fourth worst one after Ireland. That is a specific case, I would say. Romania, Bulgaria, and then Lithuania. Even the other Baltic states are relatively a little bit better. So, not many taxes. Where does the money go? Actually, you get what you pay. You don't pay a lot for the budget, so you will not get many things. So you can see the comparison to the EU average. In blue, that's the EU average of expenditure as a share of GDP. In green, you can see Lithuania. So you see in Lithuania 3 big gaps in terms of expenditure. You can see on social protection. So it explains also why the minimum income remains so low, because it's linked to expenditure. Well, same for pensions. Health, you can see the expectancy life in Lithuania is one of the lowest in Europe, especially for men. You can see that the expenditure on health are much lower than the rest of the EU. You can see general public services. I hear always a lot of complaints about public services that are justified in general, but you can see here the share of the budget, or the share of the GDP that is allocated to public services, and that is much lower than the other European countries. The only budgetary positive thing, that's about education. We had one word this morning, and actually that's green, but should be orange or even red, I think. Why? Because that was said by, I don't remember which speaker from the audit of Lithuania, saying, and it's true that actually half of the expenditure on education do not go to quality of education, do not go to pay the teachers. They go to pay for the infrastructures. And to infrastructures that were designed for a population that was 25% higher some years ago. So that's not efficient at all. It is not conducive to quality education. So that's also a big problem. Maybe it would be much more positive to have lower expenditure on education, but more qualitative expenditure. That's a never-ending question about that and about all general expenditure. Does it matter? Some people tell me, oh, you always say, Commission, that severe material deprivation is high, but all these people, they live in rural areas, they've got a garden, they can grow their vegetables, so it's not a problem for them. Okay. So let's see, there was a survey by Eurostat on life satisfaction, on well-being of people. So it's a subjective survey, so it's questions to people. But that's quite interesting because, once again, you see Lithuania among the worst member states, just before Bulgaria. And so probably it matters. That would be my conclusion. If you take the life satisfaction split by financial situation, job satisfaction, overall life satisfaction, you see that Lithuania is always below the EU average, is the worst of the 3 Baltic states. And the best, the more, where the Lithuania is the closer from the EU average, that's about job satisfaction. So that's quite interesting from the, I was a little bit surprised. People are satisfied with their job, but less satisfied with the financial situation. So maybe useful for the trade unions for the next negotiations. If you take the overall life satisfaction by income quintile, so you can see that, not surprisingly, the poorer you are, the less satisfied you are. That's not something, that's not rocket science. I think what is interesting is that if you compare Lithuania to the EU average, people until the fourth quintile actually are less satisfied than the EU average. And that's a usual phenomenon in very unequal countries where we see, for instance, for health, for life satisfaction, that in very unequal countries, even the highest quintiles are sometimes less happy, less healthy than lower quintiles of less unequal countries. So that's something that is extremely important. How is it explained? There are no clear explanations, but there is a strong correlation. Final slide about does it matter? That's about satisfaction changes. You could expect that with the high increase of growth, the high increase of salaries, people are more happy now than what they were before, and the answer is no. So clearly, there is some kind of big question mark here. Why are people less happy now when all the conditions are improving than they were before? I have to say, I've got no answer about that. Does it have to be like that? You could tell me Lithuania is joined the Union only a few decades ago. We are in a different situation, so it's normal. Okay, maybe. But if you take this graph, you see that that's the Gini coefficient, so that's about inequality before and after social transfers. You see that Lithuania is very far away on the right. So very unequal. The final result is very unequal. Just Bulgaria is worse. But if you see the left side of this graph, you can see Slovakia, Slovenia, Czech Republic that are here. So it means that it's not Eastern Europe versus Western Europe. That's really a question of choices that were made at one point in time. So it also proves to you that it can be done. You can have a less unequal society. Yes, a more equal society than you have now if you take the right decisions. I was mentioning severe material deprivation. You can see it here. I said the situation improved a lot. But if you compare to other member states, you see that in Poland the situation is much better, Czechia, Estonia, and Lithuania was even, now Latvia is better than Lithuania. So you see that even on severe material deprivation, there is still a lot of progress to make. What decisions are needed today? I will not read this text, you can read it. But do you know when this text was written? It was written in '96 by the IMF. And I think you can keep it exactly as it is today. So 23 years later, it's still exactly the same situation. So that's really a question of what do you want to do? For the decisions needed, I would say that's more or less the country-specific recommendations addressed by the Council to Lithuania. So no big surprises. I see that it's flashing here. So first of all, I think, especially at the light of the high migrations, that's about improving working conditions and quality of life. If you want people to stay in Lithuania, they must have good working conditions. They must have good quality of life. How? So that would be through increase of salaries. And if you want salaries to continue to increase at such a speed, you will need to improve productivity. It's clear. Otherwise, you will lose competitiveness and you will be in trouble. You will have also probably to promote more social dialogue. We see that in Finland. I think one of the big strengths of Finland is the social dialogue and the capacity of the society to discuss, to find, they don't always agree, but at least they agree on the problems, very generally. You can control me if you want. Second point is about also to improve the quality and efficiency of the public services, especially in the area of education, of healthcare. Without good public services, you will get nothing. I've got this telling example for me from the education. When I see the level of salary of teachers, it's relatively low. And then I heard that for the recruitment of new teachers for science and this type of what we call STEM, science, mathematics, etc., there were no candidates last year. I think that's extremely an extremely high problem, because if you've got no teachers in sciences, how will you do? How will you improve quality of education? How will you improve efficiency of education? How will you improve the productivity if you've got no good education system? Second point also, that's about adult learning. When we discuss adult learning in Lithuania, I have to say that we don't have that clear views about your strategy. It's very low in terms of uptake now, and it will be more than necessary for the future to upskill the people in order to get more productivity, in order to get into a job those who are low skilled. Then, in the country-specific recommendation, there are also the fiscal recommendations. And that's why I think it's also extremely important to have, we were speaking this morning about the package of reforms, and here, clearly, you need some coherent structural reforms that would improve the design of your tax and benefit system. It's explicit in the country-specific recommendations, and I think that's the only member state where we speak about the design of the tax and benefit system. If you want to improve your benefit system, you will need to improve your tax system. That's about tax compliance. That's about broadening the tax base. That's about more redistribution of the funds into the society, more progressivity, as I put it here. Lithuania has taken some steps in the right direction, but as you said, these are relatively late steps. And still, you start from a point that is very low, so you will still need a lot of work in this direction. I will finish with this quasi-philosophical question, but I think that the decision that is really needed now, actually, we will never put it like that in a recommendation, but maybe we should. That's what is the type of society you want to live in? Do you accept to live in the society as it is now? It seems that many people accept it. Or do you want to change the society to go towards a society that is more inclusive or not? When I hear the speech, I think you are ready to go to a society that is more inclusive. Now it's probably time to take actions to go toward this society. Thanks a lot.